Welcome back to St Anne's here in Higher Openshaw. Today I am able to upload our prize-winning story, which has been running for the last few weeks. We only had a couple of entries into this. I think there were about 6 in all. And so I'd like to thank everyone that entered this particular story competition. And I'd like to upload the winner now. We thought this was kind of an interesting and kind of spooky little story, really. But a very odd ending. The lady that wrote it is simply wants to be known as Mary, and she's in the age bracket of, say, 20 to 30 or thereabouts. And so I'd like to thank Mary for her entry, and also for the judges for their time in reading the entries. So, this is Mary's story. As I opened my eyes, the sight of the strange man standing over me shocked me into an involuntary twitch, a panic. And then, as I was going to ask him what was going on and why he was in my room, he put his strong hands over my mouth and pulled me sharply from the bed. I realised then that a second pair of hands had gripped my ankles, and now the panic really set in. I began to hyperventilate. This, with the fact that my mouth had been covered by the man's hand, resulted in my passing out. When I came to and opened my eyes, I realised immediately there was something over my head, obscuring any hope of figuring out where I was being taken. The vehicle I was in was a large and smooth one. It sounded new, its engine clean and well-oiled. Sounded like a Mercedes, or perhaps a bit like Mora's Rolls-Royce. I realised that I was in trouble, but I could not for the life in me understand why these people had kidnapped me, or what they could possibly want with me. We arrived. The engine stopped, and the door slid open, and I was bundled out of the back of the van into a very quiet building. So quiet, it was almost disturbing. When the cover was removed from my head, I was in a large room with a single chair in which I was sitting. There was nothing else there. There was a man standing there in front of me with no expression on his face. He looked completely neutral, like a strange mannequin, although he looked rougher than any mannequin I'd ever seen, and quite scary. And I was scared. The man who entered the room next had a smirk on his face. He looked somewhat menacing, and he was definitely on a mission. And that mission was to get the information he needed out of me. "You are Marie Doyle." This was a statement of fact, not a question. I just looked at him a little startled. "We've been watching you for some time now, Marie, and all I need is for you to answer my questions and tell the truth, and all will be well." I couldn't believe he knew who I was, and why he had been watching me. "You are married to Jeff Doyle, are you not?" "I am," I said, still bewildered at what was going on. "Tell me what you know about your husband's work." "Jeff's a salesman," I said, answering truthfully. What could they want to know that for, I thought. "Indeed he is," said the man. "Can you tell me what this is about," I said, "and why I'm here? Just answer the questions." The questions came thick and fast. They were all about me and Jeff, where we used to go to eat, who our friends are, who our neighbours are, and when and where we go on holiday. None of it made sense. After what seemed an eternity of these simple and innocent questions, the man asked, "Are you involved?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "Are you involved in Jeff's job?" Well, what did that mean? Jeff was a salesman, and was always on the road. I rarely saw him from Monday to Friday. Of course I don't have anything to do with his job. What a stupid question. Not as stupid as you might think. I could not understand what he was talking about. Mrs. Doyle, your husband is a Soviet spy. Ha! Don't be ridiculous, I said. Jeff doesn't know the name of our neighbours, and we've lived here 16 years. It is true, the man said. He's living a double life, and we need to work out if you are involved or you're just an innocent party. This is preposterous. Can you hear what you're saying? I am saying nothing more until I get a lawyer, and I want to speak to Jeff. None of this is going to happen, Mrs. Doyle. I know my rights, I said. You've been watching way too much TV, I think, said the man, with a wide grin. You need to help us out here. My Jeff a spy? The more I thought about it, the more ridiculous I knew it was. The more I knew this man had got it all wrong. Jeff was hopeless. That's why I loved him. He needed everything doing for him. And no one was that good an actor. Certainly not for the 22 years we'd been married. I began to think about the time that we'd met, the slow pace that our courting took. When Jeff finally asked me to marry him, he stumbled over the words, and he'd left the ring in the glove compartment of the car. It was hilarious watching him under pressure. This man, the man I loved, my Jeff, could not be a spy. I then remembered that Jeff had no family, and that I actually knew very little about his childhood, other than the bits and pieces he'd told me about. No relatives to meet. I quickly put these thoughts out of my mind. Ridiculous. The man in front of me could see that I was thinking. Anything you would like to share with me, he said. I think you have got all this so wrong, I said. I know this man. He couldn't be a spy. I presume you need to be cunning, resourceful and clever for that kind of job. Jeff's none of these. He is the archetypal, hopeless man. I know what you're saying, Mrs. Doyle, but it is you that have got things all wrong. You say that Jeff is a salesman, and that you see him very little from Monday to Friday. So how can you be so sure of what he's getting up to when he's away from home? I'm telling you, I know the man. Jeff hasn't the brains to be a spy. I'm not being nasty or anything, but believe me, I know him better than you do, and it's just not possible. We went round in circles for a very long time, repeating everything that we'd said, the same questions being asked over and over again, until at last I was left in the room on my own. I don't know how long I was in that room, but it was a very long time. No one else came in. No food or water was brought. And all the while my mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything that was happening. Could it be true that Jeff was indeed a spy? Still, as I thought this through, and all the possibilities that went with it, Jeff being a spy, it was completely ridiculous to me. All of a sudden, the lights went out in the room, and it became pitch black. Something told me they'd made up their minds about me. There was a sudden sound, a large whooshing sound. Before I knew anything else, everything went eternally black.